Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So one of the things that I love the most about gardening is the fact that you never know it all. You can learn something new about gardening every single day of your life and still not know everything about gardening. And I absolutely love that. I just think it's so wonderful, and I love reading about it, and I love watching videos and taking classes. One of my favorite things that I've ever done, and I tell everyone this, that if you have the opportunity, you absolutely should do it, was to take the Master Gardener's class program. And that is because for a couple months, I got to take a new class every single week and learn something new about gardening every single week. And I just had absolutely the best time. Well, I had the chance to take another class this past weekend. It was on winter vegetable gardening. I took it with my good friend Blair, who is a fabulous vegetable gardener, and it was at this place called Soil-Born Farms. And Soil-Born Farms is in the Sacramento area, and I really hope I can take you all there for a tour or something like that, because it is just the neatest place. It is a farm where they have a CSA and all that kind of stuff. They sell veggie starts, they do classes, they have a little restaurant there. They have everything. It is a really fun place to go. And I had never been until my friends Shelly and Christy from Between Two Shrubs. They told me that I had to go, and Blair and I signed up for this class, and I am so happy that I did, because I learned so much. It's so interesting. So anyway, during this class, we learned about vegetable gardening, and you all know I am not the best at vegetable gardening. I am terrible at vegetable gardening. And Blair and I were talking about why I'm so much better at flower gardening than vegetable gardening. And we think that it's because with flower gardening, it's very straightforward. You plant the plant, you fertilize it, you deadhead it when you need to, and that's pretty much it, right? And so that's perfect for my type A brain. When it comes to vegetable gardening, though, it's a lot more variable, right? So there's days to maturity. You can plant the plant or plant the seed, and they can tell you, okay, it's 100 days to maturity. But there's always so much variability there, based on weather, based on daylight, based on soil and nutrients and all that kind of stuff. So when I try and follow directions with vegetable gardening, my brain just, can't handle it, because it's more like a trial and error thing. And that was one of the things that I learned in this class at Soil-Born Farms this past weekend, was that vegetable gardening, it just is trial and error based on the weather that year, temperature, time, all that kind of stuff. And it's that way for summer vegetable gardening, but it is especially that way for winter vegetable gardening. And that is because the weather cools down so much and the daylight hours get shorter. And one of the things they taught us about that I wanted to share with all of you, because it was a new to me concept, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this concept before, but if you haven't, I'm going to blow your mind right now. It's called Persephone Days. And Persephone Days, or your Persephone period, is the period when the daylight hours dip below 10 hours a day. And during your Persephone period, plants tend to slow their growth significantly or even completely stop growing. And so that's pretty interesting, especially for me when I live in a mild climate and I think, okay, well, my temperature never gets too cold. I should be able to grow all season long with absolutely no problem. Well, that's not the case, and that's because of Persephone Days. And I think I just looked it up. It was from November 19th through January 22nd. That is my Persephone period, where the sun is so low and the days are so short that the daylight hours dip below 10 hours a day, and so most of my plants will stop growing. So really interesting, especially when it comes to winter vegetables, because if you plant a winter vegetable too close to your first Persephone day, it's not going to grow, and it's basically just going to sit there. So farmers have figured this out. They're very smart. They've learned through trial and error, and they learned about planting your winter vegetables before your Persephone Days start. So basically you want your winter crops to be at least 75% mature by the time your first Persephone Day starts. So if a plant that I plant is 100 days to maturity, I want it to be at least 75 days mature before I hit November 19th. And then it's basically going to slow its growth significantly, or it's going to completely stop growing, but I can still harvest from that plant because that plant is going to be mature enough that it's going to be able to survive the winter, and I'm going to be able to, keep cutting the lettuce leaves or the kale or something like that off of that crop. So I just thought that was really, really interesting. It's just another concept to learn about gardening, and it's another thing to think about when it comes to planting your veggies, your cool season veggies. I would always just plant my veggies around or start thinking about winter crops around Halloween, because that's when it felt like it was getting close to winter for me. But that only gives about 2 weeks before my first Persephone Day. So of course I was failing with my winter crops. So what I learned was having to plant your winter crops earlier is super, super important because it gives them time to mature before you hit your first Persephone Day. So I want to encourage all of you to check out your Persephone period and really start thinking about that when you're planting your winter plants, whether that's cool flowers or whether that's your winter veggies or anything that you're planting during the winter. Keep in mind your Persephone days. So kind of like a cheat sheet, of course, Persephone Days, it takes a lot of calculation and calendars and timing and math. But what you can do is, I'm sure that there are a lot of farmers around you that have already done the work for you and made planting plans. And just by checking out those planting plans and following those planting plans, you can figure out when's the best time to plant your winter crops so that they're mature enough by the time your first Persephone Day hits. So hopefully that's interesting for a lot of you. It was so incredibly interesting for me. And I learned that now, early September is the time that I need to start planting the majority of my winter vegetables because they need to be mature enough by the time November 19th hits. Isn't that interesting? So here are all my transplants that I ended up purchasing at Soilborn Farms after the class. They were just so beautiful and gorgeous, and I had my planting plan, I'll show you guys that in a minute, of what you can transplant out and what you can plant from seed. I still need to get some seed potatoes, and I need to get some carrot seeds to plant out as well, but these are all the transplants that I can plant out in the garden, and I need to transplant them out pretty soon, like before September 15th, basically. So I am planning to do all that, and I am planning to plant them all out in my back garden, which is my working garden. But as you can see, it's a little full right now. And I'm going to have to make some room. And it's pretty interesting because I thought I still had quite a number of months left for my summer, like my summer zinnias and my dahlias and all that kind of stuff. But I need space. I need to take this stuff out earlier than I probably would have, just because I need space. Doesn't my corn look so good? Very exciting. So I've been leaving these sunflowers in here because the birds and the squirrels have been eating off of them, and they've been doing a really good job, but I think it's time that I need to clean this out just so I can plant some of my cool season veggies. I also have these 2 beds back here that I planted some dahlias in, and I just screwed up this year. You can see they really didn't grow for me that much. They probably would keep growing, but they're just not doing great. So actually what I'm going to do, another thing that I learned in that class, is to leave the roots in the ground. Do not pull any plants out. I'm not going to pull any plants out because you don't want to disturb the soil. And when you leave the roots in the ground, those roots will decompose, and it's basically like compost right there, right next to all the other roots of everything you're planting. So all they said is just to cut it off at the top layer of the soil, which I had heard of before with no-till gardening, but they just made the concept a lot more clear for me. So my plan is I'm going to leave all the dahlias in right there. I'm going to leave these dahlias in. I'm going to leave all these roots in. I'm just going to cut them off, and get everything out, and then plant my cool season crops all around. So I kind of have a big job for me, but I think I'll be able to, I think it'll be easier just because I'm not actually pulling anything out. I'm just cutting it out. Now, when it comes to my zinnias that Sadie and I just cut back, they are looking so, so good. I wish I had cut them back about, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month earlier because I would have a lot more blooms right now. But I'm just so happy that we ended up cutting them back because they look so fresh and so clean. But if I don't have enough space, I don't know if I'm going to have enough space. If I don't have enough space, I think I'm going to take these out so I have enough so I can plant my winter crops, because I want to make sure I get those guys planted before my first Persephone Day. And it's hard to cut back these beautiful zinnias right now, but I'm just, I'm thinking of future Janie and what I'm going to appreciate in December and January. And I think I will appreciate the winter crops a lot more than these zinnias. So I'm just going to get going with cleaning out this back garden. Wish me luck. Okay, so it is actually the next morning. I do not know what my problem was yesterday. I was so tired. I had just cleaned out 3 beds back here and I was exhausted. I was absolutely done. And instead of pushing it, I decided just to wait, come back out tomorrow morning, this morning, and start again. So let me show you what I got done yesterday and actually a little bit this morning. So as you can see, I did not tackle my zinnia beds yet. I ended up just leaving those. But I did come back here and I did get the dahlia bed. You can see that I didn't pull, well, hopefully you can see, I didn't pull any of the tubers. I just cut them off at the surface. So hopefully they'll pop back next year. Both of these overwintered last year, so I know that they're cold hardy enough, at least for my area, as long as we don't get too cold this year. But I ended up just leaving them in the ground, and then I'm going to be planting all around them. I did amend 2/3 of this bed with some of my favorite potting mix. If I had compost, I probably would have just done compost, but this is really compost heavy potting soil, so I decided just to do that. And then I had this bed right here, same thing. I didn't pull out any of the big sunflowers that are basically like trees. I think that's part of the reason why I was so tired. I ended up just leaving the roots in, and these roots will actually decompose and actually add to the soil, which is really great. And then I amended this bed as well. Now, when it comes to this bed, this was the bed that I gave up. I just gave up and came inside. And that is because I have so much Bermuda grass in this bed. There was a problem with Bermuda grass back here when we first moved in anyway, and it was pretty good. But even in that bed there a little bit, there's some Bermuda grass. So I was cleaning it out and I was trying to take out all of the Bermuda grass. And then I just thought, this is ridiculous because the Bermuda grass is going to come back. So one of the things, or I should say another thing I learned in that class was about, solarization and occlusion, which is basically when you take a plastic tarp and you put it over a bed for, 4 to 8 weeks or something like that. And whether it's the sun or whether it's blocking out the sun, that's what kills all the weeds and the weed seeds. And I was looking into it, and since Bermuda grass is really, really deep, it has really, really deep roots, rhizomes, solarization is definitely the way to go. And I decided just to stop fighting it. It's not the optimal time of year for doing this. The optimal time of year is midsummer when it's super, super hot. But I think that I'm still early enough. It'll be okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do solarization, which is where I'm going to put a clear plastic tarp over this whole thing for about 8 weeks. And what that's going to do is that's going to kill all of the weeds and make it so that I can plant in here and I don't have to constantly be pulling Bermuda grass from this bed. Occlusion will work, but not as well, because obviously Bermuda grass is really, really deep. It has really deep rhizomes, you can see down there. And so it really, this Bermuda grass grew from underneath all of the soil here. So it doesn't really need sunlight. But with solarization, the clear plastic, it's the heat that's going to kill it. Whereas occlusion is the lack of sunlight that kills it. And that would be for more top growing weeds. So, like I said, I've already ordered the clear plastic. It's getting delivered. I'm going to cover it and then just, maybe put rocks or something over it to keep it on there. And I'm just going to keep it there for 8 weeks, and I can plant something in 8 weeks in this bed and not worry about it. So what I'm going to do now this morning is I am going to be planting probably not all of these, but most of these, not all of these are going here. I still have my Vigo beds over on the other side of my office. I think I want to put a lot of lettuce, the lettuce that I have in there. I did get some artichokes, which I actually think I'm going to put in my front garden just because they're so beautiful. I got 3 of those. And then I wanted to show you guys my the planting schedule that Soilborne Farms gave me. Now, this is what I was talking about yesterday when I said with the Persephone Days, you can figure it out yourself and you can, count backwards based on what crop you're doing. But if you find a really great farmer, garden center, Master Gardeners program, you can usually find a planting schedule like this. And you can see they've divided it up into every 2 weeks, which I thought was really, really helpful instead of every month. And so you can see one square is the first half of the month, and then the second square is the second half of the month. And then over here is all the plants. These are all winter plants or cool season plants. Green is to start transplants in the greenhouse or a protected area. Yellow or goldenrod is to plant transplants in the garden, and then blue is to direct seed into the garden. So I am looking at this column, the beginning of September here, and all of the yellow are the transplants that I can choose from to put in the garden, and those are basically all of these that I ended up getting. So I just have a variety of things. Like I said, I am not the best veggie gardener, so I can't attest to how good these veggies are or anything like that. But I was talking to everybody there, all the staff there, and also other shoppers at Soilborne Farms, and they were talking about what some of their favorites were. So this is Farroa green cabbage. I thought that would be fun. This is Astro arugula. I have to show you one that pretty much every single staff member talked about. Is it this one? Yes. So this is mixed Salanova lettuce. So basically with this one, when they were saying when you have lettuce and the lettuce keeps growing, some lettuces will just the leaves will just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But this one is bred to stop at a certain point. So it won't get bigger. It'll just get more leaves. So you get really, really big bunches of lettuce with this one. And so this one's pretty special. This one's going to go in my Vigo garden bed in a protected area. I don't have bunnies. I haven't seen any rabbits really since we got this guy, but just in case, you never know, I want it to be in a little bit more protected area. This is rainbow chard. I love this. It tastes delicious. And then is this it? Yeah, bok choy. So Jason and I, a couple years ago, we went to Alice Waters restaurant, Chez Panisse. If you don't know about Alice Waters, she's like she basically developed farm to table. She's really, really amazing, has amazing cookbooks. Anyway, we went to this really, really fancy restaurant, and one of the dishes they served us was bok choy from their garden. And it was so delicious. I remember it was so delicious. I called the waiter over and I said, what did you do to this bok choy? It is so absolutely delicious. I want to make it at home. And literally the waiter said to me, it was olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic. And it was just fresh baby bok choy. And I was like, okay, all right. So when I saw this there, I definitely had to grab some of that. So I will be planting that. Here's some curly kale right here. Here's some Romanesco. So anyway, I've got some really, really pretty winter plants here that I'm just going to mess around with. So I'm just going to fill up this bed and that bed right there. That bed around the other side is getting weed control. I probably won't plant all of these today, but I'll get as much done as I can. And then if I still have time, I will probably start cleaning out my Vigo garden beds. But let me at least get these in the ground and planted so that I can follow this planting plan. Okay, so all watered in, all planted up. This is the lettuce that I still got to plant in my Vigo beds, but I got to clean those out. These are looking so good. So let me just go over quickly what I planted. So first off, I have rainbow chard. I think we all plant this because it's so beautiful. The stems are just the most gorgeous color. There's a yellow one over there you can see, like kind of a light green, kind of a dark pink. Just so beautiful. And then here we have Veronica Romanesco. Really, really pretty. I don't think I've ever eaten this. I know that that's crazy to say. I'm not the most adventurous when it comes to eating veggies, and I really need to be better. And so I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to work on it with my family. We'll see what we can do. Then, of course, the baby bok choy, which is delicious. I don't think I bought enough. This is all I bought, and I think I need some more because this was just so yummy. Then you can see we have black magic kale. That's these 2 rows right here. This one is this the branching? Yeah, this is the branching broccoli. This is, everybody at Soilborn Farms was talking about how good this is and how yummy this is. And I even asked them, I said, if you had small space, what would be some that you would plant? And, the instructor said definitely, parsley, because he uses parsley all the time. And then this branching broccoli, because it's not like you just cut or harvest one head of broccoli. You keep harvesting the little tiny bits of broccoli. So I'll see how that goes. And then finally we have some green cabbage right there, nice and big, and hopefully that should get huge. Over here in this bed, I wasn't planning to plant anything over in this section over here, but I ended up planting 1 cabbage, and I'm just interested to see if I can grow one of those really, really big cabbages. I have some curly kale right here. I have some more of the rainbow chard. I have some more kale. This is the red Russian kale right here. Make sure Yeah, red Russian kale right there, and then some more cabbage right there. So I think it'll be great. It does look funny with the dahlia stumps sticking out, but but that's okay, no big deal. So another thing that you really have to think about with the Persephone days and planting your cool season crops earlier so that they're at least 75% mature by the time your Persephone days start is you have to think about the heat. Like we have beautiful weather right now. We're going to get up to 78 degrees today. It's fabulous, but we do have like a 95-degree day in the 10-day forecast. And so when you're planting these cool season crops earlier in the season, you're at risk for it getting too hot and for them starting to bolt. So one of the things that they went over in the class was how to manage the heat for your winter garden. It's exactly the opposite for your spring or summer garden. You want to manage the cold, and you can do that with cloches or harvest guard or something like that. But when it comes to your winter veggie garden, you have to manage the heat. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. You can use shade cloth. I actually do have some shade cloth. And if it starts getting hotter, I might even think about taking out some shade cloth. You really could just take a garden umbrella and come put a garden umbrella over the plants. But one of the things that they said is overhead watering really, really helps cool down the area. And they come out every single afternoon and they overhead water their plants on the hot days. They also have them hooked up to drip, but overhead watering just keeps it really cool. So that's kind of my plan for now, is to do some overhead watering with these plants, see if I can keep them cool. And then that kind of forces me to keep coming out here and checking on them, because of course, the more you check on your veggie garden, the more you tend to it, the better it's going to be, which is probably one of my problems with why I have such a hard time with veggie gardening. But, you know, it's fun to try. And I'm really excited to see this whole layout because I think it looks really pretty. So there's one more look at the garden bed. I think it looks really pretty. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to see how it'll do. And I really think it's going to grow pretty quickly because we are still warm. We still have long days right now, and I just think it's going to be really happy. So I'll keep you all updated with this. I did want to show you, if you were all wondering where I put all my garden scraps that I was pulling out. Dealing with garden waste is such an issue, and I do have a composting system that's working really well, but it's only a 3-bin composting system, so it's not like it can hold all the extra scraps at the end of the season, which is what we're dealing with right now. So Jason and I were going back and forth and discussing what we were going to do with it. We really don't want to burn. We don't want to do a burn pile. We're just uncomfortable with that. And, you know, it's not good for the air quality and all that kind of stuff. And living in this area, there's too many fires. Like, we just don't want to mess with fire. So anyway, we were thinking, I don't know if any of you remember, but I was discussing possibly doing a berm over to the left side of the greenhouse, building up a berm and doing like a hugelkultur method where you just put all your waste and you keep piling it up, and then every once in a while covering it with wood chips. And so you're basically naturally building up the height of the garden right here. And I'm doing this to this is our pump or our well storage. So it just stores extra water for our well and everything like that. Lots of people have those. So anyway, this is where I started putting all my extra scraps. And I think I'm going to just be putting a bunch of extra scraps there. Then once all the end of season cleanup is done, I'll cover it with wood chips, let it slowly break down, and then just keep adding to it till I have a nice, beautiful berm right here that maybe I can plant on. I don't know. So hopefully this was as interesting for you all as it was for me. Like I said, I love learning new things, and gardening gives me that opportunity to learn new things pretty much every day. I loved that class this past weekend. I cannot wait to take another class. Like I said, I will link Soilborn Farms in the description down below. And for those of you who aren't local, hopefully I'll have a chance to take you all there and maybe do a tour or something like that. But just the concept of Persephone days and winter gardening versus spring and summer gardening, it's very, very interesting. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.